All right, welcome back to this AP Computer Science A free response question video. In this video, we're going to be talking about problem 3B, which is the build matches method. Look into the description for that. So this says, write the round method build matches. This method should return a new ArrayList match object by pairing competitors from competitorList according to the following rules. If the number of competitors in competitorList is even, the best ranked competitor is paired with the worst ranking competitor, second best is ranked with second worst, etc., etc. However, if the number of competitors in competitorList is odd, the competitor with the best rank is ignored, and the remaining competitors are paired according to the rule for the even number of competitors. Each pair of competitors is used to create a match object that should be added to the ArrayList to return. Competitors may appear in either order in a match object, and matches may appear in any order in the returned ArrayList. And then we have just an example of what should happen when we call buildMatches on two different round objects. Okay, so let's go ahead and write out some pseudocode first, just like we did with part B. So I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of some of this comments just so we have a little bit more space on our screen. So with build matches, we are now expected to return an array list of matches that help match up our competitors that we have from competitorList. So because we know that we're returning an array list of matches and that doesn't actually exist anywhere within our class yet, I think we know that we want to initialize a new array list of matches. This is what is going to store the matches as we build them up within this method. So then what do we want to do? We have a different scenario based on if we have an odd or an even number of competitors in our competitor list. Let's go ahead and grab the number of competitors. And then what do we want to do after that? Well, we're branching off based on if it's even or odd. If the number of competitors is even, what do we want to do? Well, then we can go ahead and loop through all of the competitors. All of competitors. The reason why is we have an even number of people, so we can go ahead and match up everyone in that list. With the odd scenario, we aren't able to match up everyone, so it'll be slightly different. But let's go ahead and continue with the even case. When we start off, we are going to want to grab the first competitor, and this is determined as the best ranked competitor who is not matched yet. And what else do we want to do? Well, we want to grab the second competitor, and that's the worst ranked person who has not been ranked yet. Grab the second competitor, worst ranked, who is not matched yet. Okay, so now once we have these two, what do we want to do? Well, remember, we're building up an array list of matches, and matches are defined as having two competitors. So we're going to go ahead and create a new match with these two competitors. And then, since we've already created the match and we have an array list of these matches, we're going to go ahead and add this new match to the array list of matches. And that should be it for our even code. We need to consider the odd code though. So it's going to be very similar to the even code, but it's going to be a little bit different. So otherwise, if the number of competitors is odd, what we're going to do is we're going to ignore the first competitor and loop through the rest. Okay? So we're pretty much just doing the exact same logic that we had in the even branch, where we are going to go ahead and grab the first competitor, best ranked who's not matched yet, grabbing the second competitor, worst ranked who's not matched yet, creating a match, and then adding it to the array list of matches that we are going to be returning. And that is it for our odd branch. So once we've made it through either one of those branches, we now should have an array list of matches for our competitors. So since we're returning something in this method, we're going to go ahead and return the array list of matches. And that should be it for the pseudocode in this problem. So let's go ahead and let's just start writing out that code. So initialize a new array list of matches. So here we're going to have to use the extended syntax. So remember, when we were initializing the competitor list in the constructor, we had already declared it So we didn't need to include all of this junk up here. We just needed to set it equal to new array list of competitor. But since now we haven't even declared a new variable, we have to include that logic. So it's going to be an array list of matches, or array list of match, because match is the name of the object. And what are we going to call it? Let's go ahead and just call it matches equals new array list match, and then the parentheses. Okay. Grab the number of competitors. So the number of competitors should be the size of this competitor list that we created in the constructor. So let's go ahead and call it int number competitors is equal to competitor.size. And why is it size? Well, it's an array list. So we should be using size instead of length, like we did for the array. If the number of competitors is even. So if number competitors is even. So this check is kind of something you should just remember. The check for if something is even is if you mod it, is the remainder going to be 0? So for example, like 4, 6, 8. All these numbers are divisible by 2, so there isn't a remainder. So the remainder would be 0 in those cases, and those numbers are even. So if it's even, we're going to be able to loop through all the competitors. We don't need to make a special case for the first competitor. So we're going to go ahead and loop through it. So we can start at the 0th index, so the first competitor, and then when we're considering our end bounds, remember that we're going to be grabbing the best and the worst ranked. Okay, so we're kind of looking at both sides of the array list. So we don't actually want this to be, we don't actually want to go all the way to the end of the array list, because at that point we will have run out of competitors to match up with each other, right? So we actually want this to be the number of competitors divided by 2. So we know we can stop once we've made it to the middle of the array list. At that point, we will have grabbed all of the competitors, right? Because we're working our way into the middle. Maybe it'll make a little bit more sense if we use the even example that we were given in the description. So we have 4 names, and if we start at I equals 0, and we look at the last name in the array list of competitors, that's going to be at the last index. And then the next time we increment our I, so we have I++, we're now at I equals 1, and the worst ranked competitor is going to be at index 2. Okay, so at that point, we're done. We have matched up all of the competitors. So if we were going to try to increment again, we wouldn't have another competitor to match with, because we've already matched them. So hopefully that makes sense on why we want this to be divided by 2. So we're going to be grabbing the first competitor. This is going to be the best ranked person. So remember that when we created our array list of competitors, they were specifically in order of highest ranking competitor. The first person we added to the competitor list was the best one, the best ranked one, number 1. We're gonna store this inside of a competitor object. Competitor first competitor is equal to, we should be able to say competitor list, and then once again, let's go ahead and use our handy dandy reference sheet. It's going to say, how do we grab a value from an array list at a certain index? We're going to be using the get method. And specifically, we want to be getting the value at I, because I is going to give us the first ranked competitor, the best ranked competitor, because of the way that we set up our competitor list in the constructor, such that the higher the rank, the earlier they are in that competitor list. So then we're going to go ahead and grab the second competitor. So we're once again going to store this inside of a competitor object, and then what are we going to grab? So we want to grab the number that's at the end of the list. So you might be tempted to do something like this, number of competitors, but remember, number of competitors for this case specifically is going to be 4, but our highest index is 3. So we're actually going to want to subtract 1. And this will work for this case, But remember that our I is constantly increasing. So the next time we increase our I and we're looking at the competitor in the second index I equals 1, this will no longer work, right? We'll try to match them up with the person at the last index of the array list. So we also need to include I here, because I is going to keep track of how far from the back we need to be grabbing that second competitor, the person who's the worst ranked who has not been matched yet. So that will help us get that second competitor. Then we're going to go ahead and create a new match. So match, let's call it next match equals new match. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the constructor for the match class. It looks like you pass in the first competitor and you pass in the second competitor. So let's go ahead and say first competitor, second competitor. Cool. And now we have that match. Then we go ahead and add this match to the array list. So we have this matches array list, matches dot add next match. And that is it for our even branch. So otherwise, so a number is either going to be even or it's odd. So we can just use else here. Everything else is going to fall into the else. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're actually going to ignore that first competitor and then loop through the rest. So what this means for us is our for loop start index is going to be slightly different than the even number. So the first competitor is the highest ranked one, and we're just going to go ahead and skip them. So we're going to set our starting index at 1. Then we're going to go up until number competitors divided by 2. Let's go ahead and let's think about this in the case of the 3 competitors case. Okay, so we're skipping that first competitor. So now our best ranked and our worst ranked is going to be at index 1 and index 2. If we use this as our upper bound for our for loop, we're actually never going to loop, right? What happens is number of competitors is 3. 3 divided by 2, if we're going to be using integer division, is going to be 1. 1 is not less than 1. So we're never going to do any of the logic inside of this for loop. So what we actually want to do here is we want to add 1 to this number. So now when we have number of competitors is 3, divided by 2 is 1, plus 1. Now 1 is going to actually be less than 2, our upper bound, and we're going to be able to loop. You could also do, if you didn't want to do plus 1, you can have this less than or equal to. I prefer the plus 1, but whatever floats your boat. So that is our for loop logic. And then we're going to grab the first competitor. So once again, store this in the competitor object. First competitor is competitorList.get. We're using I as our looping variable for the best ranked competitor again. So we're getting that at I. Then we want to grab the second competitor. So competitor, second competitor is equal to competitorList.get. So once again, we're trying to get the worst competitor. So that's at the back of the array list that has not been matched yet. So number competitors. But remember, we don't have an index 3 here. The highest index we have is 2. So we still want to subtract I from here. And in this case, we don't actually need to subtract a 1 because the first index that we're going to be looking at is 1. So for our case with 3 competitors, if we're starting at 1 and we're trying to figure out what the index of the last competitor in the array list is, we should just be able to take the number of competitors, which is 3, and subtract I from that. So we get 2. So we're looking at 1 and 2. You know, if we had more than 3, like let's say we had 5, the next time our I would be 2. If we incremented it, we would then be subtracting 2 from the number of competitors, right? So we want to find the competitor that is at the second index from the back of array list. We're going to go ahead and create a new match. So next match equals new match, first competitor, second competitor, and then we're going to go ahead and add this new match, which is just what we did in the even case. And that is it for our even and odd logic. So now all that's left is we had all this hard work to build up this array list of matches. Let's go ahead and make sure that we return that array list. And that is pretty much it for our implementation of problem B. Let's go ahead and test it out with our 2 competitor lists. Okay, so with this first example, we have 3 competitors. So we're going to go ahead and create a new array list. It's going to be empty. We haven't added anything into it. The number of competitors is going to be 3. 3 is not even. When you divide it by 2, you don't have a remainder of 0. So we're going to go inside of the else case. That is odd. So we're setting I equal to 1, and then we're checking whether that's going to be less than number of competitors, 3, divided by 2, which is 1, plus 1. So 2, 3 divided by 1, integer division, 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. And 1 is less than 2, so now we can go ahead and go inside of our for loop. So the first competitor that we are going to be grabbing is going to be at index 1. So that is going to be Ben with rank 2. And then we're going to grab the second competitor. So that's the worst competitor that hasn't been matched yet. So that is at index number of competitors 3, 3 minus I, which is 1, so 2, at the second index. So that is going to be Kara with rank 3. So then we are going to go ahead and create a new match with these 2 competitors. So we've got a new match. Let's just imagine that we have that new match. And then we go ahead and we add it to our matches array list. So this is getting kind of tricky. So let's just maybe represent it like this. Rank 2 versus Kara rank 3. And then we tried to increment our I. So now we have 2. 2 is not less than 2. So we've actually made it through all of the competitors we had in the list. And if you spot check it with your eyes, you'll see, yes, we have looked at all the competitors except for, the first competitor. But since we had an odd number of competitors, we are free to just ignore that. So then we would just go ahead and return this array list of matches, and that checks out with the expected return type for this call of buildMatches. The following call to buildMatches, now the competitor list has a list of 4 competitors. So we're still going to be initializing the array list of matches that we're going to be adding information to. We're going to grab the number of competitors. Now it is 4. 4 is even. 4 divided by 2 does have a remainder of 0, so we're going to go ahead and go into the even case. So for this case, we can go ahead and loop through all the competitors. Yippee! So we're going to start at I equals 0. We're going to make sure that's less than number of competitors divided by 2, which is 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we're going to grab the first competitor, so that is going to be at the competitor at index 0, so that is REI with rank 1, and then we're going to grab the second competitor, so that is the person at number of competitors minus 1 minus I. So number of competitors is 4 minus 1 minus I, which is 0. So we're going to get this is at index 3. So who is at index 3? Well, it looks like we have Tim with rank equals 4. So then we're going to go ahead and create a new match with these competitors, and then we're going to add them to the array list of matches. So this is going to be REI rank 1 versus Tim rank 4. All right, and then we go ahead and we increment our I. So I is less than 2, so we can keep doing the looping logic. So who do we have at index 1, right? We're grabbing the competitor at index 1. It looks like it is Sam with rank equals 2. Then we're going to grab the second competitor, so that is going to be at number of competitors, which is 4, minus 1, minus 1, which is the I, and this is going to be at index 2. So who do we have at index 2? It looks like we have Vi with rank equals 3. So then we create a new match with the competitors, and then we add them to the matches array list. So let's see, it's going to be like Sam with rank equals 2 versus Vi with rank equals 3. And then once we try to increase our I again, we're going to get that 2 is not less than 2. So we're done with our for loop and we can exit out. And then what we have left to do is just returning matches. So we are just going to be returning this array list, and that matches up with the expected return for this call of build matches. So this is what our final code looks like, where we are creating that new matches array list. We're looping through the number of competitors based on if it's even or odd, and then we're returning the matches at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below and I'll get back to you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.